Next is condition of basal wall. See, I've seen lots of medical students while mentioning the characteristics of pulse say that the pulse rate is this much, the rhythm is this, the volume is this, character is this, and the vessel wall is not palpable. What I don't understand is that every time you are feeling the pulse, you are feeling the wall of the artery bulging out and striking the tip of the finger. So you feeling the pulse is actually you feeling the wall of the artery. Then how can you say that the wall of the artery was not palpable? What you really need to differentiate between is whether the artery wall is thickened or not. Because there are conditions where the artery wall is not supposed to be palpable. But if it is palpable, even in that condition, that means the artery wall is thickened. The question is, what is that condition? That condition is when there is no pulse traveling through the blood vessel. Because it is only when pulse is traveling that the vessel wall outpulses, strikes the tip of your finger, and you are able to feel the pulse by feeling the wall of the blood vessel. But let's say if pulse is not traveling, the blood vessel wall will not bulge out, it will not strike the tip of your finger, and you will not be able to feel the wall of the blood vessel. You will only be able to feel the wall of the blood vessel if here there is extra blood vessel. There is extra wall of the blood vessel, that is the blood vessel wall is thickened. Got it? Got it. Okay. So normally the blood vessel wall is not thickened. Abnormally, the not thickened. Abnormally, there is thickening of the blood vessel wall. And this thickening is seen in conditions such as Monckeberg, medial, calcific sclerosis, which is mostly seen due to aging in old age. There are two ways to test for the thickness of the wall. Number one is the trisection method and number two is the Osler sign. First, let's look at the trisection method. In trisection method, you use your three fingers, the index finger, the middle finger and the ring finger. With the index finger, you press and prevent the flow of blood from the radial artery. With the ring finger, you press and you prevent the flow from the palmar arches or the backflow from ulnar artery. Then you milk out the blood vessel. Once you milk out the blood vessel, there is no blood inside the artery and there is no pulsation coming from the radial artery or the palmar arches. Then with the help of middle finger, you roll over the artery. Since there is no pulse, the wall is not going to strike the tip of the finger, and normally the wall of the blood vessel is not going to be palpable. It is only when if the wall of the blood vessel is thick that you will be able to feel the wall of the blood vessel. This is the trisection method. So in trisection method, you use three fingers. With the help of distal finger, you block the return from palmar arches or ulnar artery. With the proximal finger, you stop the pulse from the radial artery, and then using both the fingers you milk out the artery, and then with the middle finger you roll over the artery and try to feel for the wall of the artery. Normally it is not felt, it is felt if it is thickened. Second is Osler sign. This is Osler sign. Hear me out. So what did I say? What is the technique? Eventually the technique is that you want to stop the pulse from reaching the blood vessel, and when there is no pulse and you palpate the blood vessel, if the wall is not felt, that is normal. If the wall is felt, even if there is no pulse, that means the wall is thickened. So you want to stop the pulse. In trisection method, you stop the pulse with the help of your finger itself. So with the help of proximal finger, you stopped the pulse from radial artery. With the help of distal finger, you stop the return from the palmar arch or ulnar artery, and with the help of middle finger, you palpated the artery. In Osler's sign, what you do is either you use your finger to block pulse at the level of brachial artery, apply pressure at the level of brachial artery, that is proximal to the palpating point, proximal to the radial artery. You apply pressure in the brachial artery, or you use a BP cuff. Okay. The better method is use a BP cuff. You preferably use a BP cuff. You wrap the BP cuff around the upper arm. You inflate the BP cuff. Till when do you inflate the BP cuff? You inflate the BP cuff till it is above the level of systolic blood pressure. Okay, because only when it is above the level of systolic blood pressure will the flow of blood be stopped, will the flow of pressure wave be stopped, will the pulse be stopped. Okay. How do you know that? You know that by palpatory method. You must know the palpatory method of measurement of BP. So you apply the palpatory method of measurement of BP. You keep on inflating the BP cuff till pulse is not felt. So now above the level of systolic blood pressure, the pulse is not felt. At this moment, when the pulse is not felt, if the vessel wall is also not felt, that is Osler sign negative, and that is good. That's normal. But if the vessel wall is felt even though it is pulseless, that is Osler sign positive. That means the vessel wall is thickened. Understood? Understood. Okay, this is Osler sign. So here's the radial artery that you need to palpate. Here's the brachial artery that you need to block to prevent the flow of pressure wave forward. The occlusion can be done either with the help of the finger, but preferably you use a BP cuff. Then you inflate the BP cuff till when? Till the pressure is more than systolic blood pressure, because beyond systolic blood pressure, the pressure wave is blocked. It is no longer going to move forward. And when the artery is pulseless, you try to feel for the wall of the artery. If the wall of the artery is not palpable, that is Osler sign negative, and that's normal. If the wall of the artery is still palpable even in pulseless condition, that's Osler sign positive. That means the artery is thickened.